Whenever I speak to advisors, I always start telling them that my goal for them is two things. One is to achieve a business where they have $1 million in net income that they're deriving from their practice. And the second is to have a practice that's generating an amazing life for them. So often, as advisors move up the hierarchy, they reach a point where they say, my business is driving my life, not the other way around. And so we want them to have a business that's leading to an amazing life. And I always say the solution for those two things is the same thing. It's more high net worth clients.
Welcome to Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, the go-to podcast for financial advisors aiming to grow their assets under management, stand out in a crowded market, and retain assets nearly forever. Are you advising high net worth clients who own appreciated capital assets? Do you want to help them sell without losing a quarter, a third, or even more of their hard-earned profits to capital gains taxes? Then this podcast is tailored for you. Each episode brings you the latest strategies and expert advice from leading financial advisors, seasoned attorneys, and experienced CPAs. Learn how to maximize your clients' wealth, minimize their taxes, and supercharge your advisory practice with actionable insights. Join us on Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, where you'll gain the knowledge and tools to set yourself apart and achieve unparalleled success in wealth management. Subscribe now and empower your practice for a brighter, more prosperous future. Welcome to Sterling Insights. I'm your host, Roger Silk. Today, we are privileged to have Paul Lofties as our guest. Paul is a leading strategist in the financial services world and an elite advisor strategist at CEG Worldwide. Paul helps top advisors move upmarket, attract high net worth clients, and deliver transformative value through the virtual family office model. Paul is a former senior vice president of wealth management and product strategy, and he also brings real-world entrepreneurial experience, having launched and led multiple businesses across different industries. Beyond business, Paul is a devoted husband and a father of two internationally adopted children whose journey fuels his passion and purpose. Paul, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Roger. Looking forward to our conversation.
As am I. Let's start with the big picture, if you don't mind. I know you know a lot about this. Why are high net worth entrepreneurs such a powerful and timely opportunity for elite advisors right now?
Roger, whenever I speak to advisors, I always start telling them that my goal for them is two things. One is to achieve a business where they have $1 million in net income that they're deriving from their practice. And the second is to have a practice that's generating an amazing life for them. So often, as advisors move up the hierarchy, they reach a point where they say, my business is driving my life, not the other way around. And so we want them to have a business that's leading to an amazing life. And I always say the solution for those two things is the same thing. It's more high net worth clients. And entrepreneurs are so important to that, Roger, because the fact is they are just the bulk of high net worth families in our nation. Our research at CEG shows us that once you reach 5 million in investable assets, so between 5 and 25 million, 75% of those individuals are entrepreneurs. And once you reach, it's 5 to 10 million. Once you get above 10 million, 90% of them are entrepreneurs. So if you want to work with entrepreneur or high net worth clients, it's good to be able to focus on entrepreneurs. And right now is the reason, Roger. Our most recent research at CEG Insights showed that actually 60% of high net worth entrepreneurs that we surveyed in average investable assets was 15 million. 60% of them in 2025 said that they would be likely or somewhat likely to change advisors in the next 2 years. So on the number.
That's very profound. In case somebody wasn't paying super close attention, I want to ask you to repeat that, please.
Yeah, so we just surveyed here in 2020. First of all, we did it last year in 2024 was 1,600. Average investable assets of the entrepreneurs was 15 million. 40% last year said that they would be likely to change advisors in the next 2 years. This year, 60%. So there's just a lot going on in the high net worth entrepreneurial space where they don't feel like they're being served.
So that tells me two things. One, if you're already an advisor to one of these people, you might want to take a closer look at what you're doing and making sure that you're not giving your clients any reason to be part of that 60%.
I think that's accurate. You
And if you're not, if none of those people are your clients, you want to be thinking about how you can reach out to them and those who are among that 60% and show them what you can do that their current advisor isn't doing, and that's why they're part of the 60% that's open and moving. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, and the question I encourage advisors to think about themselves is oftentimes, Roger, if individuals haven't worked in the high net worth market, high net worth entrepreneur market, maybe they've been mass affluent advisors, they're intimidated. They feel like, am I imposter syndrome if they try to move there? This is not, it's a different market, but if you know what you're doing, it's not a more difficult market. So if you build the business right, the value proposition, there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity here.
Would you say that some of those advisors that you just described are afraid, might not be exactly the right word, but timid with their clients?
I think they're timid. I think advisors can be timid in moving up market and thinking that, oh, this somebody that is working with $5 million to $25 million clients, which is what I would argue, Roger, is the real sweet spot, that they're just more charismatic, they're more talented. But the reality is they just have a different business structure. They purposely have decided that they were going to work in that specific market and have built a business to do it. And one of the reasons that there's such a great opportunity here is if you think about who are those 5 million to $25 million entrepreneurs today. So if you take a step back 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and ask yourself, where were they? A big chunk of those 5 million to 25 million were mass affluent, if that, if you step back just 5 or 10 years. This has been a pretty rapid wealth increase for the majority of them. Many of these business owners are millennials. So, what's happening is the advisors that they had 5 or 10 years ago provided a mass affluent experience for them.
Uh-huh.
And now, as they've moved up market, their life has grown more complex. They're just asking themselves, am I missing out? Is the same solution that I got 5 or 10 years ago really working for me with the level of complexity and sophistication that I have right now?
Is the so part of what I think what you're saying is, and I just had a call with a really high-end advisor this morning, and his client is one of the people that you're describing, except add another zero onto the end. And his advice previously was like you implied, not cookie cutter, but appropriate for a different order of magnitude of wealth.
Yeah.
Of the 1,600 entrepreneurs who you surveyed, are there certain categories or industries or professions that are dominate that people, advisors could think about?
Our survey is a very wide swath. So it's designed to be general market entrepreneur. So it's not a specific industry or niche. It's very well represented of the small to mid-sized business owner in the country.
So if, and I think I heard 60% are essentially open to another advisor, what's missing and what are they looking for that's causing them to be open?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the things that's interesting in the survey is if you actually ask them how they think about their current advisors, it's generally pretty favorable. They like them. They're pretty loyal. That's why it's so astonishing that you see 40% last year and 60% this year that said I would change. And it really is it's a fear of missing out, that there's some better outcome, there's some better result that is out there based upon the level of sophistication that I have now achieved. And I think the mindset shift, Roger, is for advisors to really, the word that I use is advocate. Quit thinking about being, first of all, let alone investment advisor. I think a lot of people, most people have left that behind to focus on the more comprehensive wealth management. But I think the way to really think about it is these individuals are looking for an advocate. Their question is, who is defending for me in my interest? It's one thing to go to a financial advisor and say, hey, these are my goals, and to have them deliver on my goals. But a lot of them will say, who is looking out for my interest in advocating for me across all areas of my wealth? At this wealth and business level, my investments, my tax mitigation, my asset protection, all of this is important and tied together. Who's advocating for me? Who is looking out for me and coordinating all of these things for my benefit? So it's that advocate that the high net worth entrepreneur is really looking for, that advisor that they feel like gets me and is coordinating all of these solutions together for me proactively.
And so, if I can ad lib here a little bit, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but based on what we see, the mass affluent advisor, even if the advisor to the mass affluent, and I guess we're talking somewhere around 1 million of assets, of investable assets. So no estate tax issues. The income tax issues are typically of a different kind. They're very real, but they're of a very different kind than the high net worth client is facing. And the same thing, asset protection. Most obviously, for the mass affluent, they should be properly insured. They should have their liability insurance, and the mass affluent advisor should be up to speed on that. They're probably going to have significant portion of their wealth and retirement plan, which, if it's done properly, is going to provide. All of those things are true, but they're almost irrelevant when you get to the high net worth. Would you agree with that?
Different scale, different issues. I mean,
And
so you could say,
so
yeah,
what you guys are doing, and I know because you've involved us, the virtual family office is at the mass affluent level, an advisor doesn't necessarily need that big team to provide what his client, because it basically there's a product for it, right?
yeah,
It's an IRA or a 401k but when you move to that, you add a zero basically to those numbers.
yep.
And that's where your so maybe you could comment a little bit on how the virtual family office model, what it is, how it works, and how it enables advisors, some of whom you put me in touch with, and I appreciate that and love working with them, but to really deliver a world-class solution for their client without being part of $1 trillion organization.
Yeah, yeah, you bet. And Roger, if you don't mind, I'm going to set it up with a story that I use to explain this, that both illustrates what an advocate is and how a virtual family office can work. And though I have been in this business for nearly 30 years, I realized what it meant to be an advocate at a different level in 2016. That year, my wife and I, we went to China to adopt our second child, little girl. She was just under 2 years old in an orphanage. And during the adoption process, Roger, we had been told she was a normal, healthy, walking, talking 2 year old. But when we got there, couldn't have been further from the truth. She was severely delayed. She couldn't walk, talk. She could barely sit up by herself. And when we got back to the States and took her to our pediatrician, we had a wonderful pediatrician. We said, this is just because she's in an orphanage, right? And we can nurse her back to health. And she said, I'm not so sure. There may be some more serious stuff going on. And she went through a list of about 10 different specialists that we needed to see in the next couple of months, a geneticist, a neurologist, a surgeon. And as we went home and started to make those calls, Roger, it was just completely overwhelming to deal with that. And appreciate how great our doctor was, and those were great referrals, but it was completely overwhelming. And I got a call out of the blue the next day from a guy, and he said, hey, I heard about your family. My name's Dr. Cobb. He goes, I know everything about families like yours, and I have a passion for helping them. He says, I have a clinic for internationally adopted children. And at that clinic, I have the region's best. And then he proceeded to go right through that same list. Geneticist, neurologist, surgeon. He says, you come to my clinic, I'll meet with you. I'll take your daughter as a patient and I'll advocate for your family to show you what's possible. And I was like, wow, how is that for a value proposition? The fact that I could go see him and he would coordinate what we needed from all of those best in class experts, it was just tremendous. And it's been a life saving relationship with Dr. Cobb. And that's when it really occurred to me, wow, this is this is the exact same thing high net worth and ultra high net worth clients want. The last thing they want to do is coordinate with their lawyer, their CPA, the wealth manager individually. All of this is related. So for to tie this into the virtual family office, the wealth manager is the driver of the relationship, but then their professional network is everything. Who are the different experts that they can plug into? And for us, that's the virtual family office model, making available the industry's best experts in tax mitigation, estate planning. You're a fantastic resource for us on the charitable side. The advisors that work with us and serve high net worth families are able to demonstrate that value. We know everything about working with high net worth families, and we've got the experts for you, and we'll coordinate what you need. So that's the virtual family office model. I can't hear you, Roger.
Oops.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you. That's a moving story, and I appreciate you sharing it. That's your daughter, Jet.
Correct.
She's about 11 now.
She's 10.
10. How's she doing?
She's doing great. If I knew you'd ask, I'd show you the picture, but she just won with three of her schoolmates the citywide book quiz. I forget the actual name for it, where they get quizzed on 30 books that they read.
You
And
must be so incredibly proud.
yeah, the fact that she could do that from where she started it's just incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and so that's what you guys do, obviously in a different field, but for these high net worth people who obviously they're not as needy as Jet was when
Yeah.
Dr. Kolb stepped in, but a lot of the times they don't necessarily even know what they need. And I think that's what you were saying before.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Roger. I don't want to discount this, but when I hear people say, "What are your goals?" What do you want to achieve? When you reach a certain level of affluence, you don't know the answer to that. You're looking for somebody to show you what's possible with what you
Yeah.
can do and what you can achieve. And that's the mindset. Who's going to advocate for me? And it is true. I think what's interesting too about the high net worth entrepreneurs and high net worth market is investments. If you look at the breadth of your relationship with them, investments is going to be their top concern. However, it's very seldomly the presenting concern when you have an opportunity to engage a new high net worth client. It's much more likely going to be triggered by some sort of business issue, some sort of succession issue or wealth transfer in the family. If they're coming to talk to you, and if you got an opportunity to trigger something for them to think about, it's much easier. Tax mitigation and asset protection. Asset protection is such an easy thing to talk to high net worth entrepreneurs about. They all know a guy who had a catastrophic situation happen in their business that they wonder in their back of the mind, what if that happened to me? So
Yeah.
very, very easy to facilitate a conversation talking about some of these wealth issues outside of investments.
Right, which are there's a giant amount of investment information out there, including a lot that's actually good. Whereas I'd say in a lot of these other areas, there's less information and there's probably more that's wrong or misleading or incomplete or inapplicable or in some other way flawed.
Yeah.
And what I find is a lot with the high net worth, they know about investing since they've been an adult. They're not experts in it. It's not their focus, but they know about the stock market. They know about bonds. They know about funds. They know about alternatives. But a lot of the other stuff, they don't even, like you said, they don't even know what they don't know.
Yeah. We, in our coaching programs and based upon our research over 25 years, we've, to simplify it, distilled it down to, we call it the five key concerns of the affluent. And for entrepreneurs, there's actually six. It's investments, making smart decisions about your money. So everybody knows that one. But then it's mitigating taxes, it's taking care of your heirs, it's protecting your assets from unjust litigation and divorce. It's magnifying your charitable impact, which is two parts. That's, are you maximizing the tax strategy, and are you actually getting the impact to those charitable organizations that you want? And then for business owners, the six, it's succession. So, if you demonstrate in your value proposition that you're going to advocate for them, and you've got a team of experts, not just yourself throwing ideas at them at that, but you've got the best of the best. That's your network in those different areas. You're going to attract a lot of high net worth entrepreneurs.
Paul, I don't know if you and I have talked about this before, but I'd throw out a seventh, which is I don't want to feel stupid, right? I don't want to be in the why didn't anybody tell me that before
Mhm.
after they've done something. What we typically see it, we see it all the time where somebody sold something without doing the proper planning, they paid some huge tax, and then they come to us. And you hate to be the one that tells them that was an own goal. You cost yourself a third of your wealth because you didn't plan in advance. So
Yeah,
people don't, and it's like they don't want to. I'd say it's, and I don't know, it depends on the person, but not doing something that's an easily avoided stupid thing is maybe more important than did I make an extra 100 basis points in my market return.
totally. I think for us, that falls in the bucket of what we call fear of missing out, that you didn't do something, you missed out on something, or you didn't do something right. And I think for what we've seen in recent years, it's actually really great to capitalize on that fear that you're talking about, because you can really use it to introduce conversations. And the four areas I see high net worth entrepreneurs are like, yeah, let's have a conversation. I might be missing out on that. Is first of all, alternative investments, something that's really of interest to them. A lot of them do a lot of real estate, so they're open ears to that. Moving away from the investment side, though, mitigating taxes. Mitigating tax. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that say, I now pay more in taxes each year than I ever thought I'd make. And there's
It's
got to be,
typical for the successful one.
yeah, and there's got to be something that I probably could be doing different. They're open ears to that. Fourth is the asset protection. Like I said before, they all know a guy who knows. I know a guy who had an employee that fell off a roof, and then this happened. And so I think I'm good, but I don't know. And then the other one's business succession. Our data shows us that still, I think it's about 40% have a transition and a succession plan. They all know that they need one, and they're looking for somebody that's going to step up and show them what needs to be done.
What fraction, if you guys asked it in the survey, of entrepreneurs, their succession plan is some sort of sale, and how many are they're actually bringing in the successor and they've got someone to pass it on to who's going to take that mantle over? How would you say that breaks down?
Yeah, I don't have the data in front of me, so I don't want to say percentages, but I will say the biggest was a inter family transition was what ranked first. Second was a transition to employees. Then the third was the sale, outright sale.
Uh-huh. Of what they wanted, but not necessarily what they actually did.
This would have been, yeah, what they intended to do. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Because,
that would be a great survey point. Go back. What actually
yeah,
happened?
I don't know about you, and I haven't done a systematic survey, but very often I hear something like, I'd love to have one of my kids involved, but they're not interested.
Yeah.
And if you don't have, it's interesting. I wonder what the data really is because relatively small, there's a tiny number of ESOPs done, for example. And I think there's reasons for that that have nothing to do with employee relations and stuff. I think it's when people dig through all the complexity that it has to be a very special circumstance.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that in practice, depends on the size of the business. A disappointingly large number, I think, of businesses don't get sold and then they pass that point of peak and then they're not sellable.
Yeah. This is part of the value proposition to why this market is so underserved, is this exact issue. Yeah, I think maybe I want to have my child in it, but is your child really interested in being in it? We should get that figured out now. And
Yeah.
if not, the decisions about that you're going to make to maximize the value of your business, if it's transitioning to somebody in the family versus if it's going to be an outright sale, are different things. And it takes several years oftentimes to get the planning done and to implement some of these things to maximize the value of the business. So with high net worth entrepreneurs, they know this when they're reminded of it. Regardless of what we do on the investment side, the business is always likely to be by far the biggest asset and the biggest wealth generator in their life and in their estate. Let's treat it like that. Let's have the succession plan and let's figure out what needs to be done to optimize the value of the business, which then optimizes your personal wealth.
I completely agree with all that. If an advisor is listening to this or watching it and he's thinking, I wonder, okay, this all sounds great. I wonder what CEG can do for me. Wonder if you could maybe, I don't know if this works, but maybe give an example of, without any identifying information, of some situations maybe where you brought us in or something that the advisor could see, okay, that's real value added that CEG brought to us, but put some like specifics on it because the story is always better than the abstract.
We're a coaching, consulting, and research company. So I've talked quite a bit today, Roger, about the research and the study that we did on high net worth entrepreneurs. But we are the definitive voice of the high net worth market. And every year we're going out there and surveying and studying high net worth clients and the advisors that serve them to find out what they want and what's working to serve them. And then we build coaching and consulting programs around that. So for advisors that want to work with us, we're all about helping them move up market quicker, faster than they ever thought possible. That's getting real specific. I call that clarity of intent on who it is of the high net worth market that they want to serve and building a value proposition specific to them. An entrepreneur value proposition is different than a, CEO executive value proposition. They've got some things in common, but some things not. The second thing we do is we really help advisors develop an incredible client experience that's going to be attractive to the high net worth individual. And part of that's the professional network, the VFO that we talked about today. And then ultimately, we teach advisors that work with us to how to build a wealthy client pipeline, which is really, it's all great to talk about this, but how do you then start putting yourself in the line of fire of meeting these clients? And the two most effective ways are through mastermind networking groups, and even more powerful are professional referrals. The bulk of $5 million and up referrals come not from client referrals, but they come from referrals from other professionals to you.
We're running out of time here, Paul. What else would you like the audience to know or hear that we haven't had a chance to cover yet?
I'd say two simple things. Have that mindset shift of being an advocate. That's what the high net worth want, and they will sign up for that. Just like that doctor said to me, Roger, hey, come see, I know everything about people like you. Come work with me. I have the team and I'll advocate for you. That's the exact same value proposition that 40 to 60% of high net worth entrepreneurs say that's why they would switch, is for something like that. And second, if people want more information about us, I think your team said they were going to put a link in the.
Oh yeah, we will. That was giving my next question.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, we're going to put a link in the notes, I guess, for something we call the play to win.
But you can also, in case somebody's listening, if you want to give a website or a phone or an email, anything you want to give.
Yeah, just contact us at cegworldwide.com.
Okay. And would they contact you directly, or is there an info, or?
There's a request more information and play to win consultation button that they can hit there.
All right. Paul, thank you very much. It's been fascinating.
Yeah, Roger, thank you. It's been nice to talk with you and hopefully provide some value to your listeners. And thanks for your partnership. So for those listening, Roger and his team are part of our virtual family office, providing great relationships and resources for our advisors that need charitable solutions. So thank you for all that you do for our group.
I appreciate that, Paul. And I might want to point out that we also do a lot of stuff using charitable stuff for people who don't care about it.
Yeah. Part of magnifying that charitable impact is magnifying the tax impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like we were talking about, they don't know what's possible. So they're waiting for somebody to say, hey, did you know you could do this? I've been looking out for you.
That's exactly right. And that's where the opportunity, as I know you and I talked about this before, but we don't use that word charitable a lot of the time because high net worth people have been we haven't talked about this, but one characteristic of high net worth is they've had people knocking on their door ever since anyone heard that they had money asking for it for free. And so, for better or for worse, a lot of people have been turned off to the concept of charity. And so, we actually don't use that word a lot because a lot of high net worth people benefit tremendously from solutions that come from that world, even though they don't care about it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Sterling Insights, Stand Out and Supercharge Your Assets, where we provide the info you need from successful leading financial advisors, lawyers, and CPAs. Your hosts, Roger and Catherine Silk, invite you to learn more about Sterling Foundation Management by visiting sterlingfoundations.com.